Hey, this is John Hervey. I'm excited to share what I learned exhibiting at my first anime convention. In the last month, I've had a great experience exhibiting with Phoenix Animation, both at Comics Palooza and at Anime Matsuri. And those conventions just have a week in between them, and they're in the same location. So it was great getting the opportunity, same location, same city, within a little over a week of each other, seeing a comic book convention, then seeing an anime convention. You can get a little bit more insight on the Comic Palooza convention in a prior stream that I did. You can go back and watch that stream. But for this stream, I wanted to talk with you and just give you 7 simple pointers that I have for indie comic creators who are considering exhibiting at an anime convention. So first and foremost, I'd say you need to have some understanding and appreciation for weeb culture. I know that may feel, for some of us, that may feel like heresy, but actually the culture of those that love manga and love anime, it's not that disparate from indie comic creators. You know, manga, well, I'd say manga drives the anime, but anime also drives the manga because the storylines, the anime storylines, they stick so close to what the manga provides. So they actually feed each other, which is huge because we know, at least in the comics in the US, the properties that are translated into other media, usually the stories are vastly different than what you find in the source material, and as a result, there really isn't a direct bridge between kind of the source material and the derivative products that are being made. That actually, you'll see in a little while, that actually does play to our advantage. The fact that manga and anime are so close in terms of the product that's being delivered. Another thing with regards to the weeb culture that I've come to appreciate is many of the older weebs are folks actually that probably used to or still read comic books. Maybe they used to, they became disenfranchised, and they kind of put their energies when it came to entertainment more towards manga and anime, or some folks are kind of have their feet in both ponds, which I think is a good thing. I don't think those ponds are as far away from each other as I used to think they were. And the thing with many of the younger weebs, for them, this is just their generation of storytelling. Just like when I was growing up and, you know, picking up comics, I mean, it was really comics, especially when comics kind of hit the early 90s, really in their, you know, in their heyday, and probably the, you know, one of the largest reaches that comics had, at least for a while, at least in my lifetime. And you see kind of the ability to reach just a broad spectrum of people. Well, that's what manga and anime do. And since the stories are based, you know, on just being entertaining, which is what comic books should be, and there's really no other agendas behind that, people really glom onto the stories. The young folks glom onto the stories. When you have stories that are for the sake of storytelling, when you have creators, oftentimes it's a creator that's telling their opus. So you have somebody telling their best story, and we get the privilege and the honor of being able to receive that story. So I've really come to realize that many of the younger fans of manga and anime are actually fans that are open to what we're doing in the indie comic scene. We just need to help them along in seeing what we're doing. But part of what we need to do in that process is to understand, you know, what it is that people are really glomming onto, really enjoying. So one of the things that was interesting going to this show, and once again, this is the first time I've gone to an anime show, was seeing by the properties that were being sold, because Phoenix Animation does a lot of amazing metal work, but there were a lot of vendors there that were selling prints, they were selling shirts, and also there were a lot of cosplayers. So seeing what properties were heavily represented, like Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, amazing amount of representation, Naruto, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Record of Ragnarok, One Punch Man, Attack on Titan, Dragon Ball, property I really didn't know much about called Fruits Basket had a lot of people showing interest in it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is something that I've seen because my oldest son, kind of enjoys it, and understanding that even if a property isn't something that really is up your alley, so to speak, like JoJo's Adventure, that's something my son loves, and I've checked it out enough to kind of know what it's about. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but it's you realize that there is kind of a fan base there, and ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out how best to get your story in the hands of people that will enjoy what you're doing. So along with the story, I think a big thing for weebs is they don't just identify with the story, but they identify with the creators of the stories. So, in indie comics, we talk about, whose run is this? Oh, the Burn run on Alpha Flight, but there's a lot of other Alpha Flight that was done by other creators. That's where the manga scene is different. I mean, when you talk One Piece, there's, the anime, there's over 1,000 episodes of it, and it's all based on the manga. But this is all Ichiro Oda's work. He is the creator. There's not like one person's run and another person's run. Naruto, Kishimoto is the creator. So when people talk about Kishimoto, they talk about Naruto. What it does is it gives you a continuity, and it gives you just these additional touch points. So it's not so much a matter of whose version of Superman is this. It is just like we kind of have in our indie world as we create comic books. If you have an indie book, that is your book, and you are the one that has provided that content as the creator, and there's nowhere else to go for that content. There aren't runs by other individuals of that content, and weebs understand that, and weebs appreciate that. They love having that connectivity between content and creator. So that's an important factor that we get to take advantage of. I'd say point 2 is if you're going to a show, check to see which anime voice actors are going to be there. It sounds silly, but that's a big part of the weeb culture. Voice actors, for the different shows, because it gives you an idea of which properties also people are going to probably heavily want to be buying products for. And this leans into our third point of if you're going to have a table and you're going to have your books there, you're going to need to have some kind of fan favorite product there to draw eyeballs. If you set up a table at an anime convention, and you have just your product and nothing else, you won't get barely any eyeballs. But if you have other content that is up, whether it's prints, things where people can see some other characters that they love, Luffy from One Piece, you name it. These are attractors, and people will come to your table as a result of those. It'll help you with covering your space because you'll be able to make sales with the prints. And if you're like me, I'm a writer, so I don't have the ability to create all these things on my own, but I do have some artist friends that I work with. You can do the same if you're a writer. You can put together whatever kind of revenue share or profit sharing deals that you want to on the prints. Kind of figure out how you want to structure that deal so that the artist can profit and you can profit and you can cover your table as well. But these things enable you to turn a profit at your table, bring eyeballs to your table, and then once people are looking at the fan favorite stuff, that brings us to our next point, which is bridging the fans' interest to your offering. So Phoenix Animation helped me tremendously in this regard. With my book Black Tiger, with there being superhero elements and martial arts and dragons and all of these kind of supernatural elements, using My Hero Academia as a bridge because that has a lot of superhero elements, and Demon Slayer with its monsters and demons and martial arts. It was a property that people loved that I could then, it's almost like a log line. I could actually point people towards my book. Now understand, Black Tiger, my books, it's Western art, has a very Western feel, but that did not preclude any of the folks from looking at the book, seeing that the art was great, seeing that the book looked great, and getting their interest. And this was the same for Magna, using Record of Ragnarok, which has a lot of Pantheon elements to it, and pointing it towards those similar types of elements that were in Magna. So you want to take that fan interest, you've drawn in the folks that are interested, and translate that to the properties that you have. One thing I definitely would say, and this is another point, is make sure that you have collateral or branded giveaways that you give to folks. Now, you're not trying to give away the farm, even if you're just having a card at your table, because while you may not make a sale, you still may have someone that's very interested. They need an easy way to be able to get a hold of your content, whether it's a card with your URL on it, your social media tags. For some of you that like to use QR codes, use QR codes. I know some folks are good with using QR codes, and some folks won't utilize QR codes. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you have a means by which people can reach you, and something that people can just quickly take with them. I'd also say be enthusiastic, because the energy at Anime Matsuri was high. And it was a great energy because people were geeked over their favorite properties. I mean, these folks were sold out for their properties. I mean, people have tattoos of their favorite properties on their bodies. People are just in that just full fanboy, fangirl mode. So if you don't have a high level of enthusiasm for your own property, especially when you're kind of transitioning people from, hey, this is a property that you love, One Piece, hey, come check out my book. If you don't have that same level of enthusiasm for your own property, people are going to take a hard pass on what it is you're doing. You have to bring the enthusiasm for what you're doing. Don't be too cool for school, because it's really, this isn't the place for it. You want to show people that this is something that is you really love, that's excellent, it's worth their time, their investment, and that you believe that they should get your property. And lastly, along with being enthusiastic, have fun. I mean, these shows are a great time. People are cosplaying, people are geeking out whether they're seeing artists that they love, or getting voice actors to sign stuff for them, or just getting stuff that's related to properties that they love. Have that high frequency energy about you, and all of these elements together will assist you. Granted, I was learning some of these things along the way, so I applied much more of this at Anime Matsuri. Comics Palooza was my first show kind of post-pandemic, and that was like kind of a mixed bag of folks that were kind of comic folks and anime folks. But I really feel like with Brandon's help, I cracked the code a lot more by the time Anime Matsuri rolled around. But with that said, I did over 3 times as much in sales at Anime Matsuri as I did at Comics Palooza. And, I'd say a lot of it has to do with approach. A lot of it has to do with approachability and having fun in the process, but also being a part of the culture and being someone that's helping these weebs, especially the young weebs. Because the older weebs, I think, are much easier because a lot of them already have interest in comics. But the younger weebs, bringing them over to to the light side, bringing them over so that they can see that, man, this is a lot of cool stuff too. This isn't just, these aren't propaganda books. These aren't books that are trying to, do anything else than tell you an awesome story and to entertain you. So I hope this was helpful. Maybe I'll see you at an anime convention. But in the meantime, until next time, use your powers for good, purpose to be a creator and not a destroyer as we walk this path together. Boundless imagination.